Today we are diving into the movie Paterson, which is about a man named Paterson who lives in a town named Paterson based on a poem named Paterson.
Your name really Paterson, or they just nicknamed me that?
No, my real name is Paterson.
The film, starring Adam Driver and directed by Jim Jarmusch, is one of those movies where you wonder, what did I just watch? What is going on here? And so, it is by design a slow, quiet exploration of a week in the life of a bus driver who lives in the real-life city of Paterson, New Jersey. He is married and has a dog and likes to write poetry in his free time. And while it might not seem like much happens, which doesn't, when you look at it through the lens of the poet William Carlos Williams, who's referenced multiple times in the movie, you start to realize what's actually happening. It starts to make a little more sense.
Aha, what?
Hello, I'm Kevin Harris, and I help people understand themselves by helping them understand the stories that resonate with them. For me, this movie was interesting on a personal level because, well, I used to drive a bus, and I also like to write poetry. There have been many times where I've been sitting in my bus trying to write something when someone or something interrupted me, pulling me back into the real world and away from my thoughts. The poet and doctor William Carlos Williams, a native of New Jersey himself,
He lived here. He was a doctor.
wrote the poem Paterson, a 5-volume epic poem published between 1946 and 1958 that explores the life and character of the city of Paterson, New Jersey. The poem weaves together the voices and experiences of the people who live there, and in a way, the film feels like an extension of that same vision.
This is very poetic.
Well, I'm not so sure about that.
Yes. This could be a poem by William Carlos Williams.
Paterson the man is a quiet observer. His poetry, like Williams, focuses on the mundane, the little details of life that most people might overlook. He writes about a box of matches, his relationship with his wife, and the things he sees on his daily bus route. But what's most interesting is how the film ties Paterson's creative process to the city itself, much like how Williams saw the city itself as both a physical and symbolic entity. The movie, like the poem, is full of references to the city's history. One of the most prominent landmarks in both the film and the poem is the Great Falls of the Passaic River. The falls are central to the poem Paterson, symbolizing both the power of nature and the industrial history of the city. In the movie, we see the falls several times, almost as if they're a character themselves, a constant presence, much like the repetitive nature of Paterson's days.
Who's that right next to Uncle Floyd holding the guitar?
Williams' poem also touches on the city's industrial past and figures like Alexander Hamilton,
Alexander Hamilton has a statue. Others got statues.
who played a role in making Paterson one of America's first industrial cities. The movie nods to this history too.
Lou Costello has got to be the most famous person from Paterson.
This blending of the personal with the historical is something that both the film and the poem do really well. They remind us that even in the small, quiet moments, we're actually part of something bigger. Then there's the repetition, one of the film's most notable features. Every day, Paterson wakes up, goes to work, and writes poetry, and every day feels almost identical to the one before. But it's in these repetitions that the beauty of the movie lies. It mirrors the structure of poetry, where repetition can create rhythm and meaning.
I had a beautiful dream. We had 2 little children.
One of the most curious recurring motifs in the movie is the appearance of twins. Paterson sees twins everywhere, and while it's never directly explained, it feels like a subtle nod to the themes of duality in both the movie and Williams' poem.
If you had children, would you like it if they were twins?
The idea of twos could represent the relationship between the individual and the city, or the idea that life is constantly reflecting itself back at you, a mirror of both the mundane and the extraordinary. In Williams' poem, there's a similar tension between the individual and the collective experience of life in Paterson. The twins serve as a visual metaphor for this duality. Paterson isn't a movie about grand gestures or dramatic plot twists. Instead, it's about the quiet moments, the way art and creativity can grow out of everyday life, and how history, place, and identity are intertwined. The city of Paterson itself becomes a kind of muse for both the character and for us as viewers, much like it was for William Carlos Williams when he wrote his epic poem.
May I ask if you two are a poet or Paterson, New Jersey?
By focusing on the details, the landmarks, the falls, the city's industrial roots, the film reminds us that art and poetry don't have to come from extraordinary circumstances. They can come from the routine, from the daily rhythm of our lives. And in that sense, both the film and the poem are homages to finding meaning in the ordinary. So if you're looking to slow down and look closer at the world, this is the movie for you. You might find that there's more beauty in your own everyday life than you ever realized.
Excuse me. Aha.
And that is the moral of the story. If you would like more videos like this, please consider subscribing or check out my Patreon page. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.